It is 3:17 a.m. The room is perfectly quiet, but your mind is a war zone. You are fighting a ghost. You are replaying a conversation from months, maybe years ago. You are winning the argument in your head against someone who isn't even in the room. They are fast asleep. They are moving on with their life. And you are here, lying awake, letting them steal your peace. You think you are holding them accountable. But you are just holding an iron chain tied to a wall in your own mind. This is core wisdom. And today, we're going deeper. If you know what it is like to fight a battle that ended years ago, you are in the right place. Subscribe. We build the fortress together. The betrayal was real. Let us not pretend otherwise. The disrespect happened. Someone broke a promise. Someone took what was yours, or lied to your face, or left you behind when you needed them most. And that hurts. It leaves a deep, jagged mark. When you are wronged, a fire starts in the chest. It is a natural human response. We crave justice. We want the scales to balance. We want the universe to step in and punish the guilty. But the universe is silent, so we take matters into our own hands. We hold on to the anger. We forge it into a shield. We review the evidence every night before we sleep, presenting our case to an empty courtroom. We convince ourselves that if we let go of the anger, we are letting them get away with it. We believe our bitterness is a weapon. We think that by staying angry, we are somehow punishing them. Every time you hear their name, your heart rate spikes. You might even check on their life from a distance, secretly hoping they are miserable. You want them to suffer exactly as you suffered. But it gets worse. Look closely at your hands. Look at what you are actually holding. You think this anger is a leash you have on them. It is not. It is an iron chain wrapped heavily around your own neck. The real problem is not what they did to you in the past. The real problem is that you are doing their work for them in the present. You are renting out the most valuable real estate in your mind to someone who despises you. You are paying them in sleep. You are paying them in focus. You are paying them in joy. Be honest with yourself. This is not justice. This is self-destruction disguised as righteousness. You are drinking poison and waiting for the other person to die. And the worst part? Your ego loves it. The ego attaches to victimhood because it feels like moral superiority. As long as you are the victim, you are the good guy. As long as you are the innocent party who was terribly wronged, you do not have to look at your own flaws. As long as you are angry, you do not have to move forward. The grudge becomes your identity. It becomes a comfortable, warm blanket of resentment. You wrap it around yourself to avoid the cold reality of the present moment. You use what they did to you as an excuse for why you are stuck. 2,000 years ago, someone understood this perfectly. Rome. The year is 41 AD. Lucius Annaeus Seneca is one of the brightest, wealthiest, and most powerful in the empire. He has reached the pinnacle of Roman society, and then in a single day, it is all ripped away. The Emperor Claudius banishes him to the desolate, rocky island of Corsica on completely false charges. Everything Seneca built is gone. His reputation is shattered. His wealth is confiscated. His freedom is erased. He is separated from his family, replaced by barren rock and freezing winds. He has every right to be consumed by resentment. He has every right to spend his days plotting revenge, screaming at the ocean, cursing the emperor who ruined his life. But Seneca does not drink the poison. He realizes something profound about human suffering. He understands that anger is a temporary madness. While in exile, he writes a masterpiece called De Ira, on anger. In it, he reveals a truth that shatters the illusion of resentment. He realized that holding a grudge does not hurt the perpetrator. It only corrodes the vessel that holds it. Seneca understood that true power is not getting even. True power is rendering the insult meaningless. He built what the Stoics called the Inner Citadel, a fortress of the mind. You cannot control the arrows that are fired at you from the outside. You cannot control the betrayals, the lies, the disrespect, or the unfair exiles. But you absolutely control whether the gates of your fortress open to let them in. Right now, your gates are wide open. The enemy has marched straight into your throne room and put their boots on your table. And you invited them in. You poured them a drink. You asked them to stay. But that is not even the real lesson. The real lesson is far more uncomfortable. We must look at the psychology behind the chain. Why is it so hard to let go? Carl Jung, the legendary psychoanalyst, explored a concept known as the shadow self. The shadow contains all the parts of ourselves that we refuse to acknowledge. Our weaknesses, our fears, our deep insecurities. Often, the blinding rage we feel toward another person is actually a mirror. Look closer at the betrayal. Look at the friendship that failed or the relationship that burned down. Are you entirely blameless? Did you ignore the red flags because you were lonely? Did you allow them to cross your boundaries because you wanted to be liked? Did you give them the keys to your life, knowing they were careless? This is the hardest truth to swallow. Sometimes we hold on to violent resentment toward others because we cannot forgive ourselves. The anger directed outward is a defense mechanism. It shields you from accountability. It is far easier to say they ruined your life than to admit you handed them the weapon. Directing that rage inward would break your ego. So you project it outward. You keep the ghost alive because fighting the ghost distracts you from facing yourself. This realization is bitter. It burns going down. But it is the only medicine that works. If you drop the iron chain, what is left? Silence. You have to face the present moment. You have to accept that the past is a tomb. It cannot be altered. No amount of anger will change what happened. No amount of lost sleep will rewrite the history books. No phantom argument won in the shower will erase the pain of the actual betrayal. You are fighting a war against time itself. And time always wins. The shift happens here. You must realize that forgiveness is not surrender. It is a tactical retreat to higher ground. Let us look at a man who understood injustice better than anyone. Not an emperor this time, but a slave. His name was Epictetus. He lived in Rome, owned by a cruel and wealthy master who viewed him as nothing more than property. One day, out of pure malice or perhaps a twisted desire to demonstrate power, his master began torturing him, twisting his leg in an iron grip. Epictetus did not scream. He did not beg. He did not curse the gods or his tormentor. He calmly looked at his master and said in a measured voice, "If you keep twisting, you will break my leg." The master, infuriated by this lack of fear, twisted harder. The bone snapped with a sickening crack. Epictetus, his face perfectly still, looked down at his ruined leg. He did not erupt into a rage. He simply said, "I told you it would break. Sit with that for a moment." Why does this story matter? Because Epictetus understood the absolute boundary between what was his and what was not. His master could break his physical body, but his master could not touch his inner citadel. The tormentor wanted to extract a reaction. He wanted fear. He wanted submission. Most of all, he wanted anger. Because if Epictetus became angry, the master would control his mind as well as his body. Epictetus gave him nothing, and by giving him nothing, the crippled slave became infinitely more powerful than the master who broke him. Now, look at your own betrayer. Look at the person who wronged you. They broke your trust. They snapped a timeline you thought you were walking together. They shattered your expectations. But you are doing what Epictetus refused to do. You are handing them the keys to your mind. Every time you rehearse the argument, you are letting them break your leg all over again. Every time you obsess over how unfair it was, you are volunteering for the torture. You are doing the work of your enemy. Stop. We have a fundamental misunderstanding of what it means to move on. Modern culture tells us to forgive and forget. We picture this as a weak, submissive act. We imagine shaking hands with the enemy, smiling, and pretending the knife is not still lodged in our back. Erase that image. True forgiveness, Stoic forgiveness, is not soft. It is the most ruthless action you can take. It is an eviction notice. You do not forgive them because they deserve it. They do not. You forgive them because you require the space they are occupying. Your mind is a fortress. You have a limited number of rooms, a limited amount of energy. Right now, your ambition, your peace, and your future are sleeping outside in the cold. Why? Because you have given the master bedroom to a ghost. It is time to throw them out. Not with a screaming match. Not with a final text message that you spend 3 hours drafting and editing. Not by proving to them how much they hurt you. Those are all just different ways of begging for their attention. You throw them out with absolute, chilling indifference. The opposite of love is not hate. Hate requires immense energy. Hate requires focus. Hate means they still matter to you. The opposite of love is indifference. When you truly detach, they do not become your sworn enemy. They become a stranger. They become a lesson you have already learned. They become a book you have already read, understood, and placed back on the shelf. You do not burn the book. You just stop opening it. But here is what nobody tells you about letting go. When you finally drop the iron chain, your hands will feel empty. You have carried this anger for so long that it has become part of your posture. You have built an entire identity around being the person who was wronged. Without that story, you might feel lost. You might feel a sudden, terrifying void. This is the exact moment most people fail. They feel the emptiness of the quiet mind. They look at the empty throne room where their anger used to sit, and they panic. So, they reach back down into the dirt and pick the heavy chain right back up. They do it simply because the weight is familiar. They prefer the certainty of misery to the uncertainty of freedom. Do not reach for the chain. Let your hands remain empty. Yes, the silence in your mind will be deafening at first. Yes, the realization that you must now focus on your own life is deeply uncomfortable. When you stop blaming them for your current situation, you inherit total responsibility for your future. There is no one left to point the finger at. There is no one left to blame for why you are not where you want to be. That is terrifying. But it is also the beginning of true power. This is the forge. This is where the iron is struck and the weak parts of you are burned away. You have spent months, maybe years, analyzing their behavior, analyzing their narcissism, analyzing their betrayal. Stop. Turn the massive searchlight of your attention away from their past and point it violently toward your future. You think they took something irreplaceable from you. They did not. They took an illusion. They took the fake version of themselves that you were foolishly defending, and in exchange they gave you reality. This is where most people quit. Don't. This is where you transform the wound into a weapon. Did they betray your trust? Good. You now know exactly who they are, and you will never be vulnerable to their deceit again. Did they walk away when things got hard? Good. Your fortress is now purged of cowards. The path is clear. Did they steal your time and energy? Good. You just purchased a masterclass in human nature, and the tuition is paid in full. Did they break your heart? Good. You just learned what you actually deserve and what you will never tolerate again. The dominoes are falling. Can you feel it? When you reframe their betrayal not as a tragedy, but as a necessary extraction, the anger begins to evaporate. You realize that you do not need an apology to move forward. Waiting for an apology is waiting for permission to heal. And a sovereign mind does not ask for permission. Marcus Aurelius, an emperor who faced constant betrayal from his own generals, his own friends, and his own family, wrote a single sentence that destroys the concept of a grudge. He wrote, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." Read that again. Let it sink in. The best revenge is to be unlike them. To hold a grudge is to let their poison dictate your character. To stay angry is to let their actions design your mind. If you allow their betrayal to make you bitter, cruel, and suspicious of the world, then they did not just break your trust. They conquered your soul. You become a dark reflection of the very person you hate. You must sever the link. You must look at the heavy iron chain binding you to their memory. Realize that you are the one holding the lock, and simply open your hand. Forgiveness is not a gift you give to them. It is a guillotine that severs their influence over your life. The phantom trial in your mind has gone on long enough. You have presented the evidence. You have made your case to an empty room 1,000 times. The verdict is in. They are guilty. They are guilty of being deeply, tragically flawed. But here is the sentence. They have to live the rest of their lives as themselves. You do not need to punish them. Their character is their punishment. A person who lies, betrays, and destroys trust is a person condemned to live in a world where everyone is a potential victim or a potential threat. They do not know peace. They live in a psychological hell of their own making, constantly running from the reality of who they are. You do not need to visit them there. You do not need to supervise their misery. Your shift is over. It is time to leave the courtroom. It is time to step out of the dark, suffocating room of the past and walk out into the cold, clean air of the present. So tonight, when the clock strikes 3:17 a.m., when you lie in bed and the silence settles over the city, the ghost will try to enter. The memory will knock on the heavy wooden doors of your inner citadel. The whisper of the old argument will try to start again. But this time, you will not open the gates. You will not drag them into the courtroom. You will not reach down in the dark to pick up the heavy iron chain. You will look at the thought, recognize it as a phantom, and let it pass like smoke through an open window. You will watch it fade away, completely powerless against the stone walls of your mind. The scales are finally balanced. Not because they apologized, not because the universe punished them, but because you simply no longer care. You are no longer their prisoner. You are the sovereign of your own mind. Sleep well. The courtroom is dismissed. The war is over.